All right, time for another deep dive. This week we are talking about Andrew Kagan's Random Technical News You Can Possibly Use newsletter.
Oh, yeah.
It's always full of so many great little nuggets, and it covers like a lot. We got Azure, Microsoft 365, the Power Platform and Dynamics 365, DevOps and SRE, data analytics, AI, security, compliance and privacy, learning and certifications, and even industry news and trends.
Wow, that's a lot to cover.
Yeah, it is. So consider this deep dive like your cheat sheet. We are going to break it all down and tell you what's really important.
Sounds good.
Okay, so let's start with Azure. Two things in particular caught my eye this time. First, there's that video on the December 13th Azure update. What stood out to you? Anything that's going to, directly impact how you use Azure?
Yeah, well, actually, I thought it was really interesting how they talked about that new feature. And you know how we've been having those problems with...
Yes.
Yeah, so that should really help.
Oh, I'm so glad. Okay, and then the second thing, this is potentially huge.
Yeah.
Windows Server 2025 now has a pay-as-you-go option. That could be a game changer for cost management.
Definitely.
Like, seriously.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Think about it. It could really help a lot of smaller companies
Right.
who maybe couldn't afford the upfront costs before.
Yeah, that's true.
And it just makes it,
Right.
more accessible.
Yeah, totally.
Which is what we want, right?
Absolutely.
We want the technology to be available to everyone.
Exactly. And speaking of making things more accessible, let's talk about Microsoft 365. There's that video called Intune Apps. Just got a whole lot better.
I saw that.
Did you watch it?
Yeah.
What'd you think?
I thought it was really promising.
Yeah.
Especially for managing devices, especially with so many people working remotely now.
Right. That's what I was thinking. Like, this could really help streamline things.
Totally.
And you know what else is interesting?
What?
That article on evolving the Copilot key experience for commercial organizations.
Oh, yeah. That was a good one.
They are really pushing AI integration in 365.
It seems like it.
It's everywhere.
Yeah, it is.
All right, let's move on to the Power Platform and Dynamics 365. First off, you should definitely check out the weekly agenda from December 9th. It gives you a good overview of everything that's happening.
Okay, I'll have to look at that.
But what really caught my eye this week was the piece on Explore agents pre-built for Microsoft Copilot Studio. Have you seen this?
Yeah.
These agents, they sound like they can really automate a lot of tasks and really make Copilot even more powerful.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, imagine
just
being able to tell Copilot what you need, and it just does it.
Right. That would be amazing.
That's the dream.
And it's getting closer and closer.
It really is. Okay, let's switch gears a bit. Let's talk about DevOps, SRE, and infrastructure.
Okay.
This one blew my mind. There are over 100 free APIs for developers in 2024. That's crazy.
I know. It's unbelievable.
It makes building apps so much easier.
Right. And cheaper.
Yep. And then there's this. Containers are outperforming VMs. Interesting.
Did you see that?
I did. I'm not surprised, though.
Really?
Yeah, containers are just
More efficient.
Makes sense.
And they scale better.
Yeah. Okay, and last but not least for this section, developers are writing half their code with Claude AI using tools like Code.am. Half their code.
Yeah, it's wild.
I mean, that's just insane.
I know. But it's also kind of cool.
It is great.
Like, imagine what we could do if we could just focus on the really creative stuff.
Yes.
And let the AI handle the rest.
That would be incredible.
I think that's where we're headed.
I think so, too. All right. Let's move on to data analytics and AI. This is where things get really exciting. We've got retrieval augmented generation, or RAG for short.
Sure. RAG.
Yeah. And there are 16 new types to learn about.
Wow.
I know, right? And on top of that, there's a new LLM optimization technique that can reduce memory costs by 75%.
Seriously.
It's huge.
I know. Especially with these LLMs getting bigger and bigger.
They're getting so big. It's crazy. So anything that can make them more efficient is a good thing.
For sure.
And before we move on, there's also Notebook LM, the AI tool with new features and a premium version.
Oh, yeah. I heard about that.
Have you tried it?
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
I've heard good things.
Yeah, you should check it out.
Okay, I will.
And speaking of lists, there's one in the newsletter that I think you'll find really interesting. It's all about security.
Oh, yeah. The top 7 in-demand cybersecurity skills today.
Right.
You should definitely read that.
Yeah, it's good to know, what skills you need
Uh-huh.
to stay ahead of the game.
Especially in cybersecurity.
Yeah.
It's always changing.
Okay, so what stood out to you?
Well, I wasn't surprised by the skills themselves, but I was surprised by how much they emphasized AI and automation.
Oh, interesting.
It seems like security professionals really need to know how to use AI.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not just about firewalls anymore. AI is a huge part of it.
Yeah, it's both a threat and a tool. And that actually reminds me, there were a couple other security highlights in the newsletter this week, like the piece on securing generative AI with Microsoft Entra.
Oh, right.
That's so important with all this AI content creation happening.
Oh, absolutely.
And then there's future-proofing cloud security with Defender CSPM.
CSPM.
Yeah. Cloud security posture management.
Right.
That's a mouthful.
It is.
But it's important stuff.
It is.
Because, security is not a one-time thing.
Nope.
It's ongoing.
Got to stay on top of it.
Yeah. Especially in the cloud. Where things change so fast.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on.
Yes. Let's move on to learning and certifications.
Learning. Always learning.
Right.
You got to keep learning.
Andrew always includes a section on this.
Yeah.
In his newsletter, which I appreciate.
Me too.
It's a good reminder.
Yeah. That we can't just rest on our laurels.
Exactly. You got to keep those skills sharp.
Yeah.
So what did he recommend this week? Well, first there's that article on 15 system design trade-offs for software developer interviews.
Oh, that's a good one.
Right. Especially if you're prepping for interviews.
Definitely.
And then there's Math Myths Busted. What beginners actually need for data science.
Oh, I love that one.
I know, right?
It's so good. Because, a lot of people think you need to be like a math genius
to do data science.
Yeah.
But you don't.
You really don't.
You just need to be able to think logically.
Exactly.
And then finally, there's prompt engineering made easy for AI content writing, which is a really valuable skill these days.
Oh, for sure.
Like knowing how to talk to AI to get it to do what you want.
Yeah, that's like a superpower.
It is. Okay, let's wrap up with industry news and trends.
Okay, sounds good.
Andrew always has some interesting insights on what's happening in the wider tech world.
He does?
So what did he highlight this week?
Oh, the big one was agentic AI.
Agentic AI.
Yeah, it's basically AI that can act independently.
Whoa, like robots.
Kind of, but more than that, think like self-driving cars or virtual assistants that can actually do things.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
It's like sci-fi becoming reality.
It is, but it also raises some ethical questions.
Yeah, pretty.
Like, how do we make sure these systems are used responsibly?
Right.
And what does it mean for the workforce?
Good questions.
Yeah.
Okay, so what else?
Well, there was also the U.S. government intervention in the Microsoft and Google AI cloud war.
Oh, yeah, that was interesting.
It just shows you how important AI is becoming.
Right.
Like, governments are getting involved.
Yeah, it's not just a tech thing anymore.
Nope. It's a geopolitical thing.
Yeah, that's kind of scary.
It is a little bit.
And then finally, there was a reminder about protecting your phone from hackers.
Oh, yeah. That's always important.
I know, but it's easy to forget.
Hey,
our phones are like,
our whole lives now.
I know, right?
So we can protect them.
Definitely.
So much good stuff in this newsletter.
I know, right?
Andrew always delivers.
Well,
yeah.
That's just about scratches the surface of everything that was in this week's newsletter.
Right. We just hit the highlights.
Yeah. But hopefully it gave you a good sense of like what's happening in the tech world right now.
Yeah, for sure.
And, what to watch out for.
Definitely.
So what are your takeaways? Anything that really stood out to you? Anything that surprised you?
Well, I think the thing that really struck me was just how fast things are changing.
Yeah.
That's like every week there's something new.
It's crazy, right?
It is. And it makes you think like what skills are going to be important in the future.
What do we need to learn?
Yeah. How do we stay ahead of the curve?
That's the big question.
It is.
And I don't know if there's an easy answer.
Me neither.
But I think it's important to just stay curious.
Yeah.
Keep learning.
Keep exploring.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to experiment.
Right.
Because who knows what amazing things we'll be able to do
with technology
in the future.
It's going to be wild.
I can't wait.
Me neither.
Well, that's all for this week's Deep Dive.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
And thanks to Andrew Kagan
for the awesome newsletter.
Of course.
We'll see you next time.
Until then, happy learning.